The 1960s and 70s weren't just a moment in time. An awakening. A revolution that sent shockwaves through the very foundation of America. Imagine a world where your rights were constantly denied, your humanity questioned, and your voice silenced. This was the reality for Black people. But in the midst of this darkness, a fire was lit. A fire of defiance, of pride, of revolution. This is the story of the Black revolutionaries who dared to dream of a different world and fought to make it a reality. Before this era, the struggle for civil rights had been a long and arduous journey. Hot centuries, Black Americans had been fighting against the system designed to keep them down. The gains were slow, often met with violent resistance. But the 60s brought a new energy, a new urgency. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a monumental victory, a law that on paper promised to end segregation in public places and ban employment discrimination. Then came the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which aimed to overcome the legal barriers at the state and local levels that had prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote. These weren't just pieces of paper. They were the culmination of marches, sit-ins, boycotts, and immense sacrifice. They were milestones won through the blood, sweat, and tears of countless individuals who refused to accept second-class citizenship. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. championed nonviolent resistance, capturing the moral high ground and exposing the ugliness of racism to the world. But as the decade wore on, for many, patience was wearing thin. The promises of legislation weren't translating into real, tangible change in their daily lives. Poverty, police brutality, and systemic inequality were still rampant. A different kind of voice began to rise, one that was louder, more assertive, and unwilling to wait any longer for freedom. This new consciousness wasn't just political, it was deeply cultural. It was a revolution of the self. For the first time on a mass scale, Black was truly beautiful. We began to shed the European beauty standards that had been forced upon us for generations. The chemically straightened hair, once a symbol of assimilation, was cast aside. In its place rose the afro, a glorious crown of natural hair that defied conformity. It was more than a hairstyle. It was a political statement. It declared to the world, "This is who I am, and I am proud." Chikis, with their vibrant colors and West African origins, became a uniform of cultural pride, connecting us to a heritage that had been systematically erased. The style of the Black Power movement was bold, unapologetic, and dripping with self-love. It was a visual representation of the internal shift that was happening, a reclaiming of identity, a celebration of our roots, and a powerful rejection of a society that had tried to tell us we were less than. This was a revolution you could see walking down the street, a daily affirmation of Blackness in all its glory. And then there was the music. The music. It was the revolution's heartbeat, its rallying cry, its soul. The smooth melodies of Motown began to give way to the raw, unfiltered funk and soul that spoke directly to the times. James Brown, the godfather of soul, wasn't just making dance music. He was delivering anthems. When he screamed, "Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud," it was an electric shock to the system. It was permission, it was an order, it was a declaration of independence that echoed in every neighborhood, from every car radio, at every house party. Artists like Nina Simone, the high priestess of soul, used their platforms to sing about the injustices they saw. Her song, "Mississippi Goddamn," was a searing indictment of American racism, so raw and real that it was banned in several southern states. Curtis Mayfield's "Keep on Pushing" became an anthem for the civil rights movement, its gentle but firm message providing the strength to carry on. Gil Scott-Heron declared that the revolution will not be televised, reminding us that the real change, the real struggle, was happening in the streets, in our communities, in our minds. The music wasn't just a soundtrack, it was the script. It educated, it inspired, it mobilized. It gave voice to the rage, the hope, the pain, and the unwavering pride of a people rising up. It was the fuel for the fire, and its flames spread across the nation and the world, influencing everything that came after. From this fertile ground of cultural and political awakening sprang organizations that embodied this new, defiant spirit. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, founded in Oakland, California, by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, became one of the most iconic and controversial groups of the era. Their image black leather jackets, black berets, openly carried firearms was a direct challenge to the state's monopoly on power and a powerful symbol of self-determination. They weren't just about image, though. Their 10-point program was a radical vision for a new society, demanding everything from full employment and decent housing to an end to police brutality and freedom for all black men held in prisons. They understood that political power was meaningless without community empowerment. They initiated free breakfast for children programs, feeding thousands of hungry kids before school each day. They set up free health clinics, providing medical care to communities that the system had ignored. They were intellectuals, organizers, and protectors. Figures like Fred Hampton in Chicago were building rainbow coalitions, uniting poor, black, white, and brown communities against their common oppressors. Angela Davis, a scholar and activist, became a global symbol of black resistance. Her intellect and unwavering commitment to liberation inspiring millions. These weren't just revolutionaries. They were community builders, visionaries who understood that true liberation meant taking care of one another and building our own institutions. Of course, this revolution did not go unchallenged. The establishment saw this rise in black consciousness and power as a direct threat. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI launched the COINTELPRO program, a secret and often illegal operation designed to disrupt, discredit, and neutralize black revolutionary organizations. They used tactics of infiltration, psychological warfare, and outright violence. Leaders were framed, imprisoned, and assassinated. The media often portrayed them as violent thugs, ignoring their community programs and focusing solely on their armed self-defense. The state unleashed its full force to crush the movement, creating a climate of fear and paranoia. The infighting, often fueled by FBI informants, weakened the organizations from within. The cost was immense. Lives were lost, families were torn apart, and a generation of brilliant leaders was decimated. The weight of this repression was heavy, and it played a significant role in the decline of many of these organizations by the mid-1970s. But you cannot kill an idea. You cannot assassinate a legacy. The fire they lit was never fully extinguished. The legacy of the black revolutionaries of the 60s and 70s is all around us. It's in the Black Lives Matter movement, which echoes the Panthers' calls to end police brutality and fight for black liberation. It's in the ongoing fight for economic justice, voting rights, and an end to mass incarceration. It's in the explosion of black art, music, scholarship that continues to celebrate our identity and challenge the status quo. They taught us the power of self-love and cultural pride. They showed us the importance of community organizing and building our own institutions. They demonstrated that true freedom requires a radical reimagining of the world we live in. Their struggle reminds us that our rights are not given. They are taken. They are fought for, defended, and protected by each generation. The revolutionaries of the 60s and 70s were not perfect. They were human beings, grappling with immense challenges and contradictions, but they were brave. They were visionary. They were unapologetically black, and they refused to be silent. They dared to fight back. Their voices, their actions, and their spirit echoed through time. It's a permanent testament to the enduring power of a people who refuse to be broken. The revolution continues in all of us who dare to speak truth to power, who dare to love ourselves, and who dare to demand a world where all black lives truly matter. We are the harvest of the seeds they planted in defiance, and we will continue to grow.